Much love. Zin Uru here. Just got back from a drive and was just driving around San Antonio for a little while. And, I've been having a lot on my mind lately, just moving into a new place. There's just something that I've been wanting to share with everybody actually for about a week now. And I'm just going to kind of riff and freestyle because I'm just in that kind of mood. It's a little bit after midnight over here. So it's a new day. And so before I got this started, I just sat down and grabbed had the gospel hip hop with me. You can see I just pulled into the garage. And I wanted to read the daily freestyle for today, even though technically in a way it's for tomorrow, which is today, future, present. What is it? It's all now. Let's see. So it's December 17th as I'm recording this. And here, this is just going to go along with the whole part that I've been wanting to share. So on December 17th in the Gospel of Hip Hop's daily freestyle, it says, "Are roses red? Are violets blue? Reality is only what is real to you." So are roses red? Are violets blue? Reality is only what is real to you. And reality is our interpretation of it. These events that happen to us, a lot of how we pretty much how we perceive these events, anything that happens to us in our life, that becomes our reality. And those of us who've been on the metaphysical path or have learned some of these, like since The Secret's been out, or it's just exploded now in 2019. There's all kinds of new thought knowledge out there, different than the New Age movement, and actually new thought, which is old thought being reinterpreted in 2019. But getting down to the perception of reality, and reality is what we perceive it as. They say when I used to train martial arts as a kid, we had this sign on the wall that said, "Attitude is everything." And as a kid, I understood what that meant, but I didn't realize the mystical implications it had across life. That attitude is everything. So we come into a situation, our roses red, our violets blue. Reality is, what is real to you. Okay, so if you're going through a situation right now, it could be, you just lost somebody in life, extreme situation like that, where you just lost a loved one, whether it's through a breakup or a loss in the family, or you had to move away, whatever that is. It's how you perceive it is how you're going to feel, and is going to be what becomes reality for you. Now, if something bad happens to you, most people will be like, "Oh, this really hurts. Oh man, this is just my luck. I can't hold on to a job. I can't keep a relationship." That's one attitude, and that actually creates that reality for that person. That the person will go to sleep at night, wake up the next day being like, "Oh man, I'm always failing. I'm destined to fail. What's going on?" Woe is me type attitude, where that same person though could have an enlightening moment and wake up and be like, "Wow, whoo, that's a learning experience. Wow, I'm glad I don't have to go through that again. Now that I've learned my lesson, thank you, God." I appreciate the lesson. That little bit of a shift in attitude right there reshifts and restructures reality around us. And these are, I'm preaching to the choir. Most people, anybody listening to me on this, on that aspect of it. So we understand that our perception creates reality, and we can get deeper into it too. Is how do we perceive our reality? What are those guidelines, or what are those? What is the belief system that we have? What do we believe when it's happening to us? Somebody might say, "Oh, you have a run of bad luck." And people be like, "Oh, I'm having a run of bad luck," and all of a sudden the reality is that this person's having a run of bad luck, quote unquote. But then they could switch that and be like, instead of saying I'm having a bad run of bad luck, being like, "Man, I'm going through a real learning process right now." Whew. Knowing that there's light at the end of that tunnel, so to speak. And that, once again, that shifts reality in very subtle ways too, in very, very subtle ways. How we condition our minds to think, how our hearts to feel, That's very much is more important even than how our minds think. It's how our heart, how we receive information in the feeling realm first. We'll feel something first, and then the thought, oh, that hurts, and the thought's like, that hurts. What are we going to do to stop it? Or this is always happening, or this is the first time. What's happening? The mind starts reacting to how the heart feels, and so this is where I'm going to start getting deeper into the topic now, because if roses are red and violets are blue, reality is only what appears real to you. Now I'm paraphrasing. I'm going to read it so I got it right. It's are roses red? Are violets blue? Reality is only what is real to you. All right. So we've got these outer conditions, and people, throughout our entire lives teaching us about the nature of reality itself. And very seldom do we actually get to experience the nature of reality itself without these preconceived ideas and notions and judgments. And don't get me wrong, a lot of these things are actually helpful. That's why we have parents, and why we have family or teachers or guides on the way, or friends. This is why we have that, because you might want to experience what it feels like to drown. I mean, nobody wants to experience that. But if somebody didn't tell you, like, yo, be careful in that water, you could drown in that deep water over there. What's drowning? Okay, I don't really need to experience that. I'm just going to trust that my lungs full of water and me sinking to the bottom of the ocean isn't something I really need to experience. And what was really interesting is that another human had to experience that, and other people had to use that human as the example of warning. Don't go there, don't do that. Because that the people who've gone out and drowned, everybody's like, oh, you don't want to go out like they went out. So that reality, that conditioning, that social conditioning that we hear all the time isn't all entirely a bad thing. It's not entirely a good thing. But this is where being mindful comes in. This is where we're looking deeper at and reinterpreting our reality comes in. At the Temple of Hip Hop, we teach that hip hop is the art of self-creation. And that creation of self begins on how we start perceiving our reality, our environment around us. Wow, okay, I'm actually going to go there with this. This is deep. I had attended a lecture with the teacher early on when in my apprentice. Well, I mean, this is like the very beginning of my apprenticeship, when I was driving down to L.A. 8 hours there, 8 hours back. Y'all know the story. I've told it 100 times. But for those of you who don't know, I was living in North Cali, and the Temple of Hip Hop meetings were in the teacher was down in Southern California, 8 hours away. And so I didn't really have money to be renting hotels and stuff. I would get as much money as I could together for gas and food. And I'd drive down 8 hours, go to the temple meeting, and drive 8 hours back. I maybe sleep for an hour, stop somewhere along the road. And one of the things he told me is he said at one of those meetings, and I'll never forget this, and be careful if you hear this, I be really careful with it. This is for an extreme situation. And my situation wasn't as extreme as I thought it was. But he said that, if you're in a situation that you really need to get out of, to just, when you're going to sleep at night, and repeat the affirmation in your head, I'm better than this, I'm better than this, I'm better than this, I'm better than this. And for me, because I was feeling so depressed, I was feeling defeated at that time. I was working so many hours, and my body was shot, my back was shot. I don't even, just I was literally picking up boulders and rocks at this landscape job, swinging a pickaxe and digging trenches. And I mean, the upside of it is we made some beautiful yards. I mean, it was a work of art, but I was the laborer, and out in the hot sun all day, 6-7 days a week. Sometimes I would just go like a month without a day off, or maybe a couple days off. And I was in my early 30s anyway. So I started, going to these meetings, and I had set myself up to continue doing landscaping work because I didn't know there was other realities out there. I didn't know that there was other ways to think and other ways to be. And so I remember going to bed and just saying that to myself over and over again. I'm better than this. I'm better than this. I look at that. That's what I'm saying. Be careful, because the things that I said that I was better than actually vanished out of my life. Uh, I don't know that I needed to be so bold with the creation there. So that's why I'm sharing this with you. But if you are in a situation where you're in an abusive situation, or you're in a painful situation that you need to get out of, focus that intention on, I'm better than this, on like depression. All right. So you're feeling depressed and being like, yo, I'm better than this. I'm better than this. I'm better than this. Do that for a week and then just forget about it. Don't forget about, getting better than that, but that's the way the metaphysics work. You make that affirmation, I'm better than this, and your reality will start shifting around, shifting around you. But be very careful with this too, because you want to be clear with what you want out of life. And I know that sounds big, because a lot of us don't really know at times what it is that we want. We just know that the situation that we're in isn't exactly what we want. It's not what's making us happy. It's not fulfilling our soul. It's not feeding our soul. It's not fulfilling our purpose. And so when you're saying that affirmation, like, I'm better than this, I'm better than this, like on depression, that's a good one, because nobody wants to be depressed. But all these by saying I'm better than this, that life of you that is better than that is going to start appearing. You're going to start feeling an inspiration that's going to get you out of there. Maybe you come across a dietary supplement that you need to take. You hear somebody talking about, the wonders of turmeric. Turmeric's a great antidepressant. Great. Take raw turmeric. Take like a tablespoon of raw turmeric in water. And you can go make golden milk too. There's this thing called, this drink called golden milk that's really good. But I just take I take a scoop of turmeric and of organic turmeric powder. You can get it anywhere, not anywhere, but yeah, pretty much anywhere. And you just I take a scoop of that and throw it in a glass of water, 8 ounce of water, alkaline water, usually stir it up and just guzzle it down. And it's like, I call it a powdered sunshine, because if you look at turmeric, it's like orange, like the sun, and it just puts this sunshine inside your body and your mind, and I would do this a lot when the sun wasn't out. But anyways, that's for depression. So what I'm saying is that, like, by saying I'm better than this to the depression, by shifting the reality of what you see and perceive, this is now all of a sudden your reality starts changing around you. And so the advice starts coming in from random people, or the inspiration starts coming from random events, an ad on TV, or a sign you see on a post somewhere, or a scripture you might see on somebody's license plate. And those are the kind of signs. That's how the universe speaks in these symbolic ways all around us. Language is symbolism. And so by saying, I'm better than this with my depression, my reality shifting around me, you're starting to see more symbolism in your environment already that's telling you what is going to be better for you for your depression. Like I said, it could be a supplement. It could be a changed way of thinking. It could be an exercise. It could be a meditation. It could be getting out of a really tough situation that you don't need to be in, that's causing that suffering, that's causing that depression. So like I said, use this with caution, and be mindful of what it is that you're asking of God at that moment. By affirming, I'm better than this, your environment will change. And this also gets into the arena of self-acceptance too. Like, that's part of self-acceptance. We say, self-acceptance is the key to hip hop. When you have when we accept ourselves for who we are and where we are, we can look at our environment and say, yo, I accept myself that I am better than this. I am better than this situation that I'm in right now. I know that I'm better than this situation I'm in right now. I'm better than this. Reality will start shifting around you. This is basic metaphysics. This is metaphysics 101. After you've graduated, and you're in the new school, you're in the new class, which some of us are finding ourselves in now. This is beyond The Secret. This is beyond the law of attraction, the so-called law of attraction, the so-called laws of manifestation. This is something even more. And then this is now the next step deeper I wanted to get into now, because this is the one that's really been exciting to me. This, for those of you who study this book right here, what I'm talking about, what I'm going to be talking about is an aspect of endarkenment and the seventh sense, using the being awake in this dream world that we're in. That row your boat gently down the stream, merrily, 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 life is but a dream. This dream that we're in, as we awaken in this dream and we start being able to shift the reality like Neo in the Matrix, we start shifting the reality of the Matrix around us. There's some very interesting things that happen, and I'll bring endarkenment into this too, because this has to do with being able to know when to shine our light and when to not shine our light, when to give our love, like the last video I just put out, or to keep our love to ourselves. This is where that gets into it. So this week I noticed something that I've been noticing this for a while, but I love the pinpoint accuracy of the fractal universe. Fractal mathematics, or the fractal patterns of nature itself. The lower you go, it just looks like, if you look at you could say quartz crystal, and you look at the structure of a quartz crystal under a microscope, and then you go down further and further, and it's the same geometric patterns, but smaller and smaller, the deeper you look, or the closer you look at it through a microscope. That's how life kind of fractals its way out. And so this is something that we've talked about, before in the past, is the burden and the blessing, or your promises on the other side of your fear. When you have a blessing that's coming your way, there's a certain burden to get to that blessing. I mean, a real blessing in life, there's a burden that comes upon you. I'm better than this depression. Well, that's the depression is the burden. And the blessing is not being depressed anymore, being expressed instead of being depressed, being expressed. That's the blessing, and the burden is carrying that depression through to that blessing. So what I've noticed is that, before the demonstration, before the answered prayer, before the gift arrives, before the event arrives that you've been praying for, you've been working towards, before that arrives, inevitably there is going to come a point where the exact opposite is going to appear to you first. Okay, before the blessing comes, the burden is going to feel even heavier. Before you get to the promise on the, your promises on the other side of your fear. Well, you got to get through that fear then to get to the other side where the promise is. Well, getting through that fear, this is where you have to have focus. And spiritual gifts like faith and the divine performance comes in, performing patience, performing prayer, performing forgiveness, performing patience. This type of a divine performance then helps you get through the fire, helps you carry that burden until it's a blessing. This is what it is. And so you can start noticing that when these warning signs come up randomly, this is what I noticed, it's 2 weeks ago now, was that I had just, I've been kind of excited about this. It wasn't really a big deal thing either. It was just like, I've been kind of excited about this thing that was going to be happening in my life. And I had been, kind of, sharing with God, like, I really like this to happen in my life, God. So, I know in your timing it's going to happen, but I was getting kind of excited about it. And so, I went to bed at night, woke up the next morning, and I had this heavy heart. I had this heavy heart, and I was brushing my teeth, and I was like, man, I am feeling really sad right now. I was just like, all of this just and not like normal, like, I'm not one to hide from my feelings or need to mask my feelings or need to feel better just for the sake of feeling better. My heart's heavy. It's time for examination. When I feel sad, it's time to look within and be like, yo, what is causing this sadness? What do I need to love, about this situation? Where is this sadness coming from? But it can also flip that, and that same thing can be like, I wake up and I'm feeling depressed. I'm brushing my teeth. I'm like, yo, fuck that shit, man. I'm so tired of this shit. Man, fuck that. Why does this shit always got to be happening to me? Why me, God? Don't I do this and don't I do that? So shouldn't I deserve this too? It can easily go in that direction when you're feeling sad. I was like brushing my teeth and I like jammed the toothbrush in the back of my mouth. I'm like, what? And like my tooth is hurting and like, like I got water all over my sleeve, like, that kind of morning. And I'm like, yo, and I realized, I said, wait a minute, Zin, I wasn't like, gonna get like all ballistic mad or no dumb shit like that. But I was like, yo, man, I was like teetering right there for a moment. And I've gone through like a week of being really, well balanced and everything. And there hadn't been any situation that happened in my life that I thought, oh, would require this amount of sadness that I was feeling and this heavy heart and this depression that was trying to push itself on me and everything. And but it was great because at that moment I realized that fractal nature, that like even something small that I was excited about happening, all of a sudden now my heart's going, ooh, oh man, this hurts. Why am I so sad? Why am I so depressed? I said, oh, that's the universe. I've been doing this for a while too, but this one was just so perfectly clear at that moment. I was like, oh, rejoice. That's God. God is coming. I'm feeling this sadness and heaviness. I'm feeling this burden right now. I'm going through this trial by fire right now because my blessing is about to be here. And I just embraced the depression, the sadness. I embraced all that I was feeling at that moment. It didn't go away. I embraced it though. And I knew the nature of it. I knew that the very nature of what I was feeling at that moment was tempting me to try and lead me astray and try to keep me off of my path in the universe's wisdom to see if I'm worthy of that which I ask for or that which I require. Now, I'm sitting there like knowing this at that moment, and no, it didn't get better. I went through an entire day feeling just down. And I like I said, I don't try and run or hide from that, but I don't react to it either. It's very important to know that when feelings come, that we master our feelings and we don't allow our feelings to master us. Now, an example of a feeling mastering us would have been if I was like, man, fuck this day, man. Why has it always got to be me? And maybe I just went out in the car and drive and I went and spent some money on some dumb shit that I didn't need to try and make myself feel better. I called somebody who I didn't really need to talk to, or I did some things, just whatever I would have done, because I'm angry now and because I'm reacting this way. Nah, that's how you get led astray. That's how we get led astray. We follow that void. I talked about in the last video, that void. We follow that feeling that's not good for us. It's not for our highest good. It's not that the depression is bad for us. It's not that the depression or any of that was wrong. But my feelings weren't wrong. But the way I reacted to those feelings, if those feelings mastered me, if those emotions mastered me and I didn't master them, I could have gone down a wrong path really easy. And not a wrong path that was going to lead to like self-destruction and death and a wreck or any of that. I mean, it could. Some people leave in anger their house and they get in a wreck, and it's a sad state of affairs because it's a wake-up call, it's a wake-up call for sure. But what I'm doing is I'm giving you this key that somehow it works, that the wake-up call is the feeling and not the reaction to the feeling and then the consequences that come with that. It's the wake-up call is the feeling itself. The wake-up call is like, yo, I'm feeling sad and depressed. And what is the wake-up call is like, oh, my blessing is close. My promise is close. The discovery is close. The answered prayer is close. The demonstration is close. those things are close. So of course I'm going to feel this way right now. That's just the universe's way of testing my worthiness at that moment. So you don't react, you don't react. Now, what happens here is that, by not reacting to that day, well, I got two things I want to talk about. So first off, that day, I didn't react to it, but I didn't even see. Here's the other side too. I didn't go out and be like, "Oh, life is so great. Oh, I need to pamper myself today because I'm feeling a little depressed. So I need to go drink this and go spend money on this and go do that so I don't feel depressed." I mean, I'm not dissing that. That's better than the other side. But I didn't try and mask that depression or that sadness that I was feeling with anything, because I knew that it was just something to go through. I say this. The teacher taught me this one is when temptation arrives, just simply be still and do nothing and allow the tempting moment to pass. This works every time. It works 100% of the time, every single time. Be still and do nothing. Allow the tempting moment to pass. All right. So I did, and I mean, honestly, I thought that it was going to be gone in an hour or less, but it stuck with me the whole day. The whole day, somewhere around 6, 7 in the evening, I had prayed with my heart. I felt my feelings. I thought, well, yeah, I am sad about this. So, I haven't seen my kids. My dad's got dementia. I had all these things that I just was kind of just needing to address in my heart. And I gave my heart that love, and I gave myself all of this healing. And all of a sudden now, it just worked its way out. Worked its way out, and my heavy heart then became light again. And the sadness I was feeling was transmuted into joy. A deep joy, like a very solid feeling of joy. So much so that this process, I completely forgot about this thing I had been praying for and been thinking about, happening. And about 7:30, 8 o'clock, like an hour and a half later, after it had left my mind, because I was like, yo, man, I'm feeling this sadness. This is what's important. My health, my love, my awareness is what's important. And so, I completely forgot about this blessing I'd asked for. And then it came, Then all of a sudden the blessing was like, boom. And it was quicker and faster and funnier. And all these great things started happening. And I was like laughing, I was just like, yo, God, oh, thank you so much. Thank you for walking me through that. Even the forgetting of the blessing was was so great, because it was even more exciting when it happened. I was like, oh yeah, I prayed for that to happen, and here it is. Of course it's here. Of course it's here. Now, I looked at that day as a microcosm. The blessing, I ain't gonna tell you what it is. It's kind of silly, but it was just something that meant something to me. It meant something to my heart, meant something to my life and my awareness, and my betterment. It wasn't even a material thing, and it was a very simple thing that had happened. But I looked at that day as a microcosm, because bigger things happen in life. Like an album will be bigger than like the little event that I'm talking about, like making a full album. So if you're going to be making a full album, take these same principles that I was just talking about, or anything you want to manifest in your life, take these same principles. What I was just talking about was just like a one day as a microcosm. Maybe you're starting off to make an album right now, or you're in the middle of making an album, and it seems like you just keep hitting roadblock after roadblock. Like you're like, I need to know about EQ. I need to know about microphones. I need to know about pre-mastering. I need to know about post-mastering. You mean I need to know about levels? I need to know about, I just wanted to rap. I just wanted to rap on a record and make a record. How come I got to know all this stuff? So you start hitting these barriers, in the creation process. You start hitting these things, and it can go really sour quick, and don't front, don't front on those lessons, because going sour is part of it too, going sour and kicking the curb and like fucking it all, and however you blowing off steam, if it's unhealthy, whatever, speeding and getting a ticket, whatever, hopefully it ain't something disastrous, but even that, those things can help too. But what I'm talking about is to help the process go quicker and help it go faster, and also experience the mystery of God, because you're still good. Jeez, man, these lights. Oh well, you're still going to experience the mystery of God in all of the process by not having to keep stubbing your toe on the same thing, or go through the hurtful situations that they could be. So using that day, once again, let me get back to that. Using that day as a microcosm of, like, I wake up in the morning, I prayed this prayer, I knew it was on its way. I had this faith, and then I wake up that next morning and I'm feeling depressed and anxious and angry, or triggered. The word people throw around nowadays, triggered, like I guess that's what triggered means. Like, all of a sudden, you're just gonna start going off, going postal, shooting. I don't know, triggered. But anyway, I was getting triggered that morning, and okay, so using that, being triggered, and then going through the process of embracing the feelings, not becoming them, mastering the emotions, not allowing the emotions to master us, going through that process to where almost even forgetting about the prayer request. And then all of a sudden, the fulfillment of the prayer request, the promise now has been kept. The promise, that's the promised land. When you receive a promise from God, that if you do certain things, and you live a certain way, and you take certain steps, you're going to get what's promised to you. That's the physics of the metaphysics. And so, going through that whole process in that day. Now back to the album, or whatever you're creating. I'll just use the album as an example. So you're going through like this maybe year or 2 year or 3 year process to make an album, like your first album, second album, whatever it is, 6-month process. You're going through this, whatever that allotted time is, process that you're going to have that depression hit you throughout that process. You're going to have that doubt hit you throughout that process, that anxiety hit you throughout that process. These things are going to try and trigger you throughout that process. All that's going to happen to get to that promise of making that album, making that video, writing that book, traveling where you want to travel, fulfilling your purpose, whatever that is. Those depressions, all those demons, really. That's where I'm going to get into, like, endarkenment. All of those so-called devils that are trying to attack you and lead you astray. And they can be sneaky too. It's not always depression and anger or resentment. It can be good feelings and joyful feelings, and friends want to take you over here, and this person wants to do this with you in this situation you just couldn't pass up. But all of a sudden, like, you start getting deterred by all these sensory objects in the outer world, these things that the universe is still testing you with. It could be good things that look really good, shiny things. Shiny, let me go to that. And don't forget your purpose going after some shiny thing. There's gonna be all of these different temptations. Temptation that wears many masks, and temptation's masks are dark and light. Travels the whole spectrum. Temptation does. So you've got this focus now. I want to get to this promised land over here. I want to get to my album. I want to get to my manifestation. Whatever that is that I've been working towards, I want to arrive at that moment. So in that long process, it's going to be like that day where, there's this little cycle that happens. That's just the microcosm, the fractal. As it fractals out bigger and bigger, okay, now it's a year I'm working on this album. I just went through 6 months of hell in my life. What? I lost my car. I lost my home. I lost my dog. My mom ain't talking to me. I haven't eaten for 2 weeks. Nothing but rice and beans. I've been eating oatmeal, drinking water, sleeping on a couch, all because I wanted to make an album. Why haven't bothered? So you start feeling like those things. Remind yourself, like, this is the path to the promised land. Read about it in Exodus, what those guys had to go through. Those guys and those men and women had to go through. Like, it wasn't like they didn't just leave Egypt and then just like have this nice trip, and all of a sudden they're like in the land of milk and honey. No, there was trials and tribulations and a lot of doubt and a lot of fear and a lot of madness. When you read that story, there's a lot of madness that happened along the way. So the path to the promised land, you got to get through the desert of doubt and disbelief. You've got to get through the wilderness of sin, of temptation. You've got to get through those things to get to the promised land. But it is there. So remember that those temptations and these things are there to strengthen you, to strengthen us in our resolve. The universe wants to make sure that you're worthy of her secrets, that you're worthy of her voice, that, you can't just manifest anything and expect the universe to comply because you're just so special. It doesn't work like that, because the universe isn't going to just give you everything you want. That would be a disaster. Like, I don't think any reasonable person would even, who's listening to me. I don't really know that you wouldn't know that it would be a complete disaster if you can manifest all your thoughts at once. You wouldn't even want that to happen. And I know there's probably people out there who are like, yo, that would be great. I, I don't know. I don't know what these trillionaires need trillions of dollars. These billionaires need billions of dollars for to do, what they think they manifest. Because here's something that's really, really interesting, because we're not talking about material things here, even though the album is a material thing. It's also ether, because it's sound. You're going to hear the album. So we're not talking about material wealth here, because we already know that, like, if you have enough money, you can buy anything you want. That's not manifesting anything. I see so many people trapped in this, and mostly white folk too. Because they think that their spirituality, all of a sudden they have all of this stuff, like the new car and the job and the trip to Hawaii, and they're getting to go to all these retreats, and they're getting to do all this fun stuff. I'm manifesting this. I'm presto manifesto. I'm a manifester. I manifest everything. When it's really like, yeah, but you also got a you got a trust fund, or you've got, somebody loaned you $50,000 to buy 2 acres in Grass Valley, and you're growing weed, and or you just trimmed weed for two months and you made $8,000. I mean, that's cool. Now don't get me wrong, I actually did that, so that lifestyle is great, but that is not presto manifesto. It's part of it, but what we're talking about has to work in the hood. It has to work in Nigeria. It has to work in Colombia. It has to work in places where you don't have access to the same riches that everybody else does, where you have to rely upon God. And the real truth of that is, that's how if you want to manifest something real in your life, you don't even want a material good. You don't want a car and a trip to Hawaii. Maybe you do. That's cool. No judgment there. I want to go to Hawaii, like, right now. I want to manifest a ticket to Hawaii and go and live on the beach for a month. I would love that. I have no problem with that. But the metaphysics, to teach that that's the metaphysics when it's actually privilege, is something that be warned of that. Just beware of that way of thinking, because really, but you want to manifest a way out of depression. You want to manifest love in your life. You want to have peace manifested in your life. You really want to get to the promised land with your people, with everybody, with hip hop. You're going to have to go through some real trials and some real tribulations to get there. And it's not going to come. Yeah. So maybe somebody does have a trust fund and it helps them get to the promised land, but it's going to have to help everybody get to the promised land. Maybe somebody's got these resources that's going to help them get to the promised land, but it's going to have to help everybody get to the promised land. You feel me? Like, too much of this temporary culture of just writing off relationships, just writing off, like, I just got rid of all the toxic relationships in my life. Okay, yeah, that's a good thing. Abusive relationships, you don't want to be around abusive relationships. It's not good for you. But I just wrote off all the toxic people in my life. Like, you just wrote off your whole family. Okay, cool. Now you're just going to go live by yourself or just seclude yourself. Okay, cool. But, that's that. I'm not even going to get into the agenda that actually is, and the millions and billions of dollars spent on the quote unquote new age movement, which isn't the real new age movement. It's a false new age, this false awakening. You don't think that, okay, I'm going to go off on a little rant here, and I'll circle back around, but you don't think that the elite don't know that 2012 happened in 2017, and the Mayan prophecies and the restructuring of our DNA and the upgrades in our consciousness? You don't think that they aren't aware of that? They're the ones who stole all the books. They're the ones who studied all the books. You want to know who got the highest astrologers and esoteric masters? The elite, who own Disney. Like, why do you think Star Wars, or, Star Wars wasn't really Disney in the beginning, but like the new ones are, or the Marvel movies, why do you think they resonate with you so much on the hero's quest? They know that that's something that we're all resonating with, but they put a lot of money into new age thinking, into Barnes and Noble spirituality. I'm not saying you can't get knowledge or something spiritual out of a book at Barnes and Noble. That's up to you. Like I said, like the gospel says, are roses red? Are violets blue? Reality is only what is real to you. So, okay. So yeah, Barnes and Noble reality, spirituality can be real. If it's real to you, it's real. It is what it is. But the elite have this very self-centered way of having people think, and it doesn't do good for community to write off everybody who's toxic, because we're all toxic. Like, you're just going to write off everybody as if, and this is the separation agenda. This is this, I'm a Jedi. They're not Jedis, so, or, I'm a wizard and they're all muggles, that's separation, because all of a sudden it starts putting into the mind that it's an us against them. It's the wizards, and we're the wizards and we're all wise, and those muggles, they're so bad. It's division creating reality, and it's an agenda. Okay, it is what it is. If you don't agree with me, I've been researching this stuff for 30 years, so it's agenda driven. There's an agenda to get people so focused on a spirituality that's so focused on self and being self-centered. I thought somebody was coming in. That was weird. It's an agenda. See how the universe do you? It's an agenda that has got people so self-centered and so a spirituality focused on self and being so selfish that they just isolate everybody else. This is why I love the Matrix movie, okay? Because there wasn't a separation. There was an obvious separation of those who were outside the Matrix, the wizards, and those who were stuck in the Matrix, the muggles. There was a separation there, but and I love the Harry Potter movies, by the way. Great lessons, great stories, great knowledge, eternal wisdom. I'm not dissing anybody, but be aware that this whole you have to let people go who are toxic in our lives and things like that. But once again, we have to get back to community in this, and this will be the end of that little rant right there. The community needs to allow people to feel toxic, since we're all toxic, and have centers of healing or have resources available for toxic people to detoxify themselves. So the purpose of knowing knowledge, like if you've been enlightened and you just can't be around people, like, yo, I get it. I tried it. I didn't like it, but I could see how somebody could. I could see how just leaving everybody behind and being enlightened somewhere in the woods would be great. I just, the temptation's real. But it doesn't work when we need to build a new earth. We're to build the promised land, to get to the promised land. So let's bring it all around now, because we're collectively going through this right now where we're being hit with depression. You see somebody hit with depression, you're not depressed. You might think that person's toxic hanging around them, but now you could be the light in their world. You could go and they might hear that turmeric helps depression. They might take their turmeric for 5 days and be like, yo, I feel better now. I'm actually thinking more clear. I need to change this other habit too. I need to get back on my course for purpose. Now changing your reality like that. This is real talk right here, because this isn't even this video it is what it is. It's YouTube, it's 2019, but this isn't some spiritual self-help video that I'm putting out there and calling the people who respond to this video my community. But I am aware that there are real people on the other side of this screen, across time and space, who are real people with real problems and really struggling in the same reality that I'm, or even, something real, this earth reality that I'm in as well. And we'll meet in real life. I meet people all the time, first through a screen, and then they come through, through real life. And I always laugh at that, like, yo, you came through the screen and now here you are in my reality. But these trials and tribulations that we can go through on a microcosm as an individual, And then even bigger, like working on an album, you kind of go through it with other people. If you're working on an album, you got to, your first album or your first creation, you're gonna get hit with those temptations. You're gonna get hit with those things that don't add up. You're gonna, the universe is gonna push against you. You're gonna feel the burden. You're gonna have to go through the trial by fire. So that person in that day, you can go through that in a day or 6 months or a year or 10 years or a whole lifetime. A whole lifetime is the hero's quest, right? So then when we actually leave this life, we leave, the scales of ma'at. We leave and our heart can be weighed against the balance of a feather. Our heart is light. Just visualizing that right now, that great and holy day when I leave this realm. I'm so thankful for this life, God. I'm not ready to leave anytime soon. Word. But get back, those trials and tribulations that we go through on the daily basis, or the monthly basis or the bigger basis. Also what we're going through as a community. Now, hip hop, this is where I'm getting to, because hip hop, as we reach our enlightenment, as we master ourselves, as we get to the real promised land, hip-hopia, what we are seeing and visualizing and feeling is hip-hopia inside of us. We have to overcome our collective depression. We get to overcome. We get to overcome our collective depression. We get to overcome our collective insecurity. We get to overcome our collective sickness, our collective hatred, our collective ignorance, our collective poverty. We get to overcome our collective poverty together. And there's the promised land. All of a sudden, we're in the promised land. Feel me on that. Feel me on that. Get to the promised land. We're going to the promised land. We are going to the promised land. To the promised land. I hope you are ready. I hope you are ready. Word. So know that when temptation arrives, when the anxiety arrives, when the depression arrives, when the sadness arrives, when the be triggered arrives, stay your course. Be still and know that God is God. Go within, embrace that depression, embrace what you're feeling, embrace the sadness, embrace the fear, embrace the anger. Don't become it. Do not become it. Embrace it. Love it. That is the fire. That is the trial by fire. And that is the lifting of the burden. That is the picking up of the burden. And all of a sudden, you've been picking up the weight of this burden throughout the day, throughout the year, throughout life. We start picking up this burden so often. We start feeling the weight of the burden. And just like a weight makes us stronger, picking up that burden, all of a sudden now we're so strong that we can pick up that burden and it becomes a blessing. It becomes light. It becomes air. Steph Curry for the three. Have you ever seen Steph Curry when he's like 8 years old, 7 years old with a big old basketball? His dad was a basketball player. So here's little Steph Curry with a big ass basketball. That's a burden, because his promised land was to become a great basketball player, And so he had this heavy ball. This basketball must have been like this big when he's like 7 or 8. And he's just huffing it up there, taking these crazy shots, But you see the physics of him when he's little, working on that shot, heavy, heavy, heavy basketball. But now you look at him, he's mastered that. The burden of the basketball is no longer a burden. It's a blessing in his life, because he can shoot like nobody's ever shot before. He hits more shots than anybody in the history of the game with accuracy, So his burden, the heaviness of the basketball burden, became the blessing. It became air. It became light, and that's what happens. This is why it's so important not to run from these burdens, or try and mask over these burdens, or ignore these burdens, or try and keep a safe distance from our burdens, or these temptations. Oh, let me keep a safe distance from that. I mean, get out of if you're an alcoholic, of course you want to be away from the booze. Who doesn't? If that's the temptation. But that burden of sadness, that these internal things that we're feeling, depression, this is because, like, you might be feeling the most depressed right now. You might have just gone through the worst period of your life and be in the middle of it right now, but you might be the most famous MC in the world 2 years from now, a year from now. You might make the best album that hip hop has ever heard. And you might be in the hospital right now. You know, this is the way that the universe works. That God is, hey, everybody wants this like ideal, like, Santa Claus giving you gifts, God, and like, oh, the universe is going to bless me with abundance today. And yeah, those who've gone through the trial understand that, like, yo, the universe is about to bless me. I've been through the trial, but you can't avoid the trial. Steph Curry could not have just sat down and waited till he's 25 to become the greatest shooter in the world. 27, to become the greatest shooter in the world. He could not have just sat there and be like, wow, I'm going to be the greatest shooter in the world at 27. I'm going to be the first unanimous MVP there ever was. And I'm just going to wait till that day gets here. Obviously that ain't going to work. He had to pick up the basketball, get his lungs strong, get his legs strong. So do you. You got to do those same things. You got to go through those same trials, those same tribulations, those same divorces, those same disappointments, things not working out for you over and over again, those same mistakes, and learning from those mistakes and realizing that they are there for a reason to strengthen your resolve. The universe is testing us to see if we are worthy. And hip hop, hear me now. The universe is testing us to see if we are worthy of the promised land. Are we really worthy of the promised land? I'm talking to the 35, 40-year-old, 50-year-old hip hoppers out there right now. Still living the same life that you was doing in your early 20s. Come on, grow up. We're not worthy of a promised land if we're doing the same thing in our 20s, in the 40s. If we're 40 years old and we still have the same temptations and we're still going to the same parties and we're still stumbling on the same obstacles and we're still tripping over the same thing over and over again, that is not worthy of the promised land. That's not, because our children and those who are coming after us have to know how to overcome the obstacles. The only way they're going to know that is by learning through us. Oh, that's the dog scratching. I don't know if you could hear that, but there's like all this creaking noise. It's the dog. I must have woke up the dog. He wants to come out here and say hi. All right. So in closing, the only way we're going to get through the promised land is to go through the desert. And that's the only way. Little things in day-to-day life, just, getting that job that you wanted or getting that favorable outcome or whatever that is, getting that relationship that you want, you're going to have to go through the desert. You're going to have to go through the desert of despair, of all these things, to find out if you're really worthy for what you're asking for. And that's the promised land. Are we worthy, hip hop, of the promised land? Are we setting the example as the elders for the younger people coming up under us? Are we, those in the temple of hip hop, are we studying this book? Are we really knowing what this gospel of hip hop is actually saying? Can we really look at it and pull our own lessons and glean our own lessons because we've been putting it to practice? I hope so, and that's going to lead me to what this new year is going to be about. January 1st, I'm going to be starting the 21-day Divine Performance Challenge. I'll have more details on that in the future, but you can go to page 144 to get a head start in your gospel of hip hop. But on the 1st of January, I'm going to be doing a guided meditation on December 32nd. That's a special half day. There's December 31st, and then there's December 32nd, starting from noon to midnight, where we will be fasting and visualizing our coming year. And then starting on January 1st, we'll be doing the 21-day Divine Performance Challenge. I've done this 5 years in a row, so I know what it does. It's a way to kickstart the year. What it is we go through the Divine Performance. Well, everybody does it on their own. I'll probably shoot a few videos on Instagram or something and share them on here. But what we're going to do is on January 1st, read the first half of the opening of the Divine Performance. January 2nd, read the second half. And then January 3rd, reading one Divine Performance each day for the next 18 days. And then on that's 18, 19, 20. So on the 21st day, we read the closing of the divine performance. And then that's 21 days where we've dedicated our thoughts, our minds, our prayers, our meditations to our divine performance to start off the new year. And each of those 21 days, what that lines up with is the daily affirmation for 21 days that's in the Gospel of Hip Hop. And anybody who wants to do that affirmation with me in closing can do that with me right now. And so let's close it on this, and just say it after me out loud if you can. Say it in your mind if you can't. All right, so we start. I am not afraid. Today, I give myself permission to be all that I can be. New fields of divine activity now open for me. Unexpected doors fly open. Unexpected channels are now free. My mind is focused and directed toward my victory. I now create what I need through divine energy. Good things come to me easily, in peace, and at the right time. And there it is. There it is. Peace and much love. I just wanted to share that off my heart with y'all.